Usually when we talk about a massive world-changing invention, there's this assumption that whoever built the core technology just automatically wins.
Right. Yeah, like they just get the crown by default.
Exactly. I mean, imagine you invent the very first recipe for reinforced concrete.
Okay.
You have the secret formula. So naturally, you assume you're going to just own the future.
Because you made the thing.
Right. It feels clean, it feels fair.
Yeah.
You made the concrete, you win the game.
It's a deeply comforting narrative, honestly. We're sort of culturally conditioned to love that idea.
Totally. The lone genius.
Yeah, the lone genius inventor in a lab just reaping all the rewards for their technological breakthrough simply because, well, the tech itself is superior.
But then you look at how the real world actually works,
Mm-hmm.
and that narrative completely falls apart.
It really does.
Like the person who invented the concrete doesn't end up ruling the world. The person who figures out how to use that concrete to build a global real estate empire, complete with, toll roads and housing grids and city infrastructure. Or, well, I guess I shouldn't say ... Complete with city infrastructure. That's the person who actually builds an empire.
The one who applies it.
Exactly. And that brings us to the brutal logic operating just beneath the surface of today's technological landscape.
Which is what we're really getting into today.
Yes, and we want you, listening right now, to be the crucial third mind in this conversation today, as we just completely dismantle this exact assumption.
It's a big one.
We are looking at what it really takes to build a trillion-dollar, civilization-level business in the age of artificial intelligence.
And we aren't just talking about chatbots here.
No. Definitely not. Not chatbots, not neat little productivity tools. We are talking about the actual blueprints for entirely new empires.
Yeah, and our guiding text for this exploration is a really, really provocative breakdown from April 2026.
It's a fascinating read.
It is. It's by Paramendra Kumar Bhagat, and it's titled Netizen. The Real Win is Multi-Layer Dominance. Tech Stack plus Industry Reinvention.
Which is a mouthful, but it perfectly captures the scope.
Exactly. It's this uncompromising look at why the current trajectory of, frankly, many of the most famous AI companies is, structurally speaking, a dead end.
Wow.
Yeah. There is a striking thought right at the beginning of the text that frames everything. He says, most technology companies fail not because their technology is weak, but because their ambition is incomplete.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because, incomplete ambition sounds like a wildly harsh diagnosis.
It really does.
Especially for companies that are currently building some of the most advanced technology in human history, right?
Right, but it forces us to redefine what ambition actually means in this space. Building a great product, a cutting-edge foundation model, or a hyper-fast API.
It's an incredible feat.
It's a massive engineering feat. But economically, it's incomplete. The text argues that fortunes aren't made by building the best tech in a vacuum. They're made by taking that tech and using it to fundamentally rewire how an industry operates.
Okay, so winning the technology layer is an illusion if it's the only layer you conquer.
Precisely. The author calls that bottom level layer one.
Let's look at layer one then, because even this foundational layer is just, it's mind-bogglingly complex.
No, it's massive.
The source refers to this as the AI substrate, or the operating system of intelligence. And we really need to move away from the idea that an AI stack is just a single, massive neural network sitting on a server farm somewhere.
Yeah, that's a very outdated view.
Right. The infrastructure required just to step onto the playing field at layer one is an entire ecosystem.
To even pretend you're competing at layer one, you are managing a dizzying array of components. You need the foundation models themselves, obviously.
Sure.
But you also need agent orchestration.
Okay, break that down for us. What is agent orchestration?
Think of it like a digital air traffic controller. It's not just one AI thinking. It's a system managing thousands of specialized mini AIs. Yeah, ensuring that the agent writing a legal brief doesn't conflict with the agent checking compliance laws, for instance.
Right, they have to work together.
Exactly. And then you need tool use frameworks so these agents can actually click buttons and trigger actions in the real world.
Not just spit out text.
Right. Plus, you need persistent memory systems, so the AI remembers an interaction from 3 months ago. You need distributed training and inference, governance, and compliance layers.
Developer tooling, SDKs, marketplaces for reusable capabilities.
It is an absolute labyrinth.
It really is. And this highlights the paradigm shift, I think. We have to stop thinking of AI as a search box you type questions into.
Yeah, that's just the surface.
What we're talking about is an operating system powered by billions of semi-autonomous processors running constantly in the background.
Everywhere.
Running inside logistics networks, routing trucks around storms. They're running inside hospitals, cross-referencing patient vitals.
Inside governments, inside classrooms.
It's huge. And the historical parallel here is crucial, right?
Very crucial. The goal of Layer 1 is to become a universal dependency.
Okay, explain what you mean by that.
You want to be what Microsoft became in the era of the personal computer, or what Android became for mobile phones.
The default.
Exactly. You want to be the default runtime for human and machine interaction across the globe.
So if we go back to our analogy, building Layer 1 is like inventing a revolutionary new car engine, but then just like bolting it to a pedestal in a museum.
Right, and just waiting for people to walk by and clap.
Exactly. It's an incredible piece of engineering, but it's not actually moving anything on its own.
It's static.
But wait, let me push back a little here. Let's look at Microsoft or Amazon Web Services. Owning that foundational layer made them absolute titans.
True.
So why are we pretending that owning the universal runtime layer is somehow a bad outcome? Why does the source say owning this layer is powerful but not sufficient?
Because we have to look at the life cycle of infrastructure. When infrastructure matures, it inevitably becomes commoditized. The warning here is that most AI labs will release their models, win their benchmark battles, and collect their applause. But they're going to remain permanently trapped as mere tool providers.
They become the new Intel.
Exactly. The text explicitly calls this out. Intel provided the crucial chips that powered the digital revolution, and they made billions doing it.
Right, massive company.
Huge company. But Intel supplies the parts. They don't dictate how society operates. They are a vendor, not the architect.
And a vendor can always be replaced by a cheaper vendor.
Always.
So if we look at the ultimate counterexamples to this Intel trap, the source points directly to Amazon and Google.
Amazon is the absolute perfect illustration of Layer 2 thinking.
How so?
Well, Amazon didn't build their cloud infrastructure, AWS, because they had some burning desire to be an IT vendor for other startups.
Right, they weren't like, let's start a server company.
No, they built it as a necessary byproduct of a much larger, much more aggressive industrial ambition. They were trying to build a planetary-scale commerce machine.
To sell books, and then everything else.
Everything. And to make their own commerce machine function without collapsing under its own weight, they had to invent AWS. The infrastructure was subservient to the industry takeover.
That's a huge distinction. And Google followed the exact same playbook, didn't they?
They did. They didn't become a trillion-dollar titan just because Larry and Sergey wrote a really elegant PageRank algorithm.
Right.
They used that algorithm to completely reorganize the global information and advertising economy.
So the algorithm was the engine, and the advertising network was the vehicle.
Beautifully put, yes. If we connect this to the broader strategy, this is the essence of Layer 2, going one level above the stack.
You build the infrastructure, but you don't stop there.
You immediately deploy it to reinvent an existing industry. As the author states, the true winners build the engine, and then they build the vehicle that conquers the continent.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate for a second. If someone builds a flawless operating system of intelligence, an absolute masterpiece of an AI stack, isn't that inherently valuable?
It has value, sure.
But the text suggests this infrastructure is constantly at risk of being competed away. I mean, can an operating system of intelligence really become just a cheap, swappable commodity?
Absolutely. The market is ruthlessly efficient at driving the cost of foundational technology to zero.
Golly, even this complex.
Even this. The moment you unveil a pristine, multi-billion-dollar AI stack, an open-source collective or a well-funded rival looks at it and says, how do we replicate this for a fraction of the cost?
Yeah, they usually do.
We are seeing it happen in real time. Models that cost $100 million to train last year are being matched by open-weight models today.
That is wild.
It is. And this vulnerability perfectly sets up the critique leveled at one of today's most famous tech companies.
Yes. The OpenAI trap.
The OpenAI trap.
The author is highly specific in this critique. They describe OpenAI as building the brain. But the structural danger of only building the brain is that intelligence itself is on a rapid path to becoming a utility.
Right. If intelligence becomes something you just plug into the wall to access.
Like water or electricity or Wi-Fi.
Exactly. If it's just a utility, the trillion-dollar financial outcomes do not stay at the utility layer.
Where do they go?
The value migrates upward to the people who build the body.
The body.
Yeah. The body is the nervous system, the workflows, the specific industries that are animated by that brain.
I mean, think about the companies that generate electricity. They're massive corporations, right?
Yeah.
But are they anywhere near as valuable or as culturally dominant as the industries that electricity enabled?
Not even close.
The power company powers the film industry, the tech industry, the manufacturing industry.
Sure.
But the power company isn't Disney or Apple.
Right. The utility just takes a tiny fraction of a cent for the electron, while the application layer captures billions in user value.
So to survive long-term, AI stacks have to climb the value chain.
They have to. Look at Apple. Why does Apple dominate the mobile ecosystem?
It's not just the hardware.
It's not merely because they design their own silicon chips, though, that vertical integration definitely helps. Apple dominates because they build the products people emotionally and functionally depend on. They own the experience. iMessage, the App Store, iCloud.
So owning the technical stack just gives you leverage to lower your costs.
Exactly. Owning the ecosystem gives you dominance over the user.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's stay with that electricity analogy for a minute.
Okay.
Shouldn't AI companies actively want to be the global electricity provider for cognition? I mean, it's safe, it's regulated, everyone on Earth needs it. You have guaranteed recurring revenue from every single digital action forever.
It sounds like a sweet gig.
Right. Is the author underestimating the sheer scale of just being the utility company for human thought?
It is a massive business, don't get me wrong, but utility providers simply do not achieve planetary monopoly.
Because they're capped.
Exactly. Think about the constraints on a utility. They are heavily regulated by governments, their margins are often capped to prevent price gouging, and they're treated as public goods rather than dynamic, aggressive growth engines.
Ah, I see.
To achieve the empire-level outcome this text envisions, you cannot be a passive utility. You need to climb the value chain and aggressively conquer specific, highly vulnerable vertical markets.
Which leads us directly to the trillion-dollar question. Which industries are the best targets for an AI takeover?
You don't just pick at random.
Right. If you've built this massive, intelligent engine and you are ready to build a vehicle to conquer the continent, where do you drive it first?
Well, you certainly don't just throw a dart at the S&P 500.
Yeah.
The target industry must meet a very specific, almost predatory anatomy.
Predatory anatomy, I like that.
First, it must be massive in its total addressable market.
Huge amounts of money flowing through it.
Exactly. Second, it must be highly fragmented, meaning no single company already has a monopoly.
So there's no single giant you have to slay.
Right. Third, it must be globally replicable, so a solution built in London works in Tokyo.
Okay.
And most importantly, and this is the key, it must be heavy in workflows.
Workflows. That is the magic word here. The text explicitly says, do not target manufacturing. Do not target heavy machinery.
Right. Don't go after the companies pouring concrete, mining lithium, or assembling steel beams.
Because the physical world is messy.
It's messy, it's slow, and it's wildly expensive to disrupt.
So what do you target?
Target paperwork, target coordination, compliance, scheduling, data entry, and multi-party approvals.
The author describes these vulnerable industries as human agent systems, which is such an interesting phrase.
It really reframes how you look at office work.
Because if you strip away the branding and the fancy office buildings, all these industries really are, at their core, are complex networks of humans acting as agents.
Exactly. Taking a piece of information, applying a rule to it, and passing it to the next human.
And because they're just routing logic through biological brains, they are incredibly vulnerable to artificial agent systems that can do the same routing instantly.
Instantly, and without fatigue.
The source actually breaks down 7 specific vulnerable industries, and we really need to dig into the mechanics of these, because this is where the abstract theory of AI becomes uncomfortably real for a lot of people.
Yeah, this gets very practical, very fast.
First up on the list, education. And the text makes a crucial distinction here. This is not just about building better edtech.
No, edtech historically means tools that assist the existing human workflow, like a smart whiteboard, or a grading app for the teacher, or a slightly more interactive textbook.
Right, augmenting the teacher.
The author is talking about replacing the entire industrial classroom model.
Wow.
Because the current model is a human bottleneck. You have one teacher trying to optimize the cognitive development of 30 wildly different children simultaneously.
It's an impossible work.
Completely impossible. So an agentic approach maps a hyper-personalized cognitive tutor to every single student.
An AI tutor that knows them perfectly.
Exactly. The AI isn't just grading a test. It is understanding exactly why the student got question 4 wrong.
It knows the student struggles with spatial reasoning, but excels at verbal cues.
Right, so it instantly rewrites tomorrow's physics lesson to use verbal analogies instead of spatial diagrams.
That's incredible. And education is one of the largest markets on Earth.
Massive. And it is fundamentally a huge workflow of knowledge transfer waiting to be automated.
Okay, next is healthcare administration. And I noticed when people casually discuss AI in healthcare, they usually imagine a robotic surgeon, right? Or a diagnostic model spotting a rare tumor on an MRI.
That's the sexy stuff.
But the text pivots entirely to the back office. The author drops an incredible framing here. They say a healthcare system is an agent workflow system disguised as a hospital.
It's brilliant. Let's think about the life cycle of a medical claim for a second.
Okay, walk us through it.
A doctor performs a procedure. Then a human coder has to translate that procedure into a highly specific alphanumeric CPT code. They send that code to an insurance company. The insurance company employs an army of humans whose entire job is to find a reason to deny that code based on a labyrinth of policy rules.
It's just armies fighting armies.
Literally, if it's denied, the hospital's army of humans fights the insurance company's army of humans. It is entirely a war of paperwork, compliance, and semantic ambiguity.
So the target isn't the doctor saving the life. It's the administrative drag that makes saving that life cost 10 times more than it should.
Exactly. An AI agent system bypasses the semantic ambiguity entirely.
How so?
Well, an agent at a hospital communicates directly with the agent at the insurance company. They resolve the coding, the prior authorization, and the compliance instantly in the background.
Before the patient even leaves the room.
Yep. The human armies of coders and billers are rendered entirely obsolete.
Wow. Okay, the third target is legal and contract systems. The text calls the legal world a paperwork economy.
Which anyone in law will tell you is absolutely true.
Oh yeah, if you've ever been involved in corporate litigation, you know that the vast majority of legal work is not some dramatic courtroom speech.
It's not a TV show.
It's the discovery process. It's a team of junior associates sitting in a windowless room, billing $500 an hour to read through 10,000 mundane corporate emails looking for a single breach of contract.
And the billable hour itself is an anti-pattern when it comes to efficiency.
Because there's no incentive to do it fast.
Right. But AI semantic search and pattern recognition. It can ingest 1 million emails, cross-reference them against a 100-page contract, and highlight the exact clause violation in 3 seconds.
3 seconds versus 3 months.
Exactly. The author envisions a new global legal operating system for businesses where routine contracts, due diligence, and compliance filings are handled entirely by swarms of legal agents negotiating with one another.
That would just decimate the traditional law firm model.
Completely.
Okay, moving to the fourth target, global trade and supply chains. The author describes international trade as coordination hell.
It really is. Picture a massive cargo ship arriving at a port in Los Angeles from Vietnam.
Okay.
It doesn't just pull up and unload. There are bills of lading, customs declarations, agricultural inspections, letters of credit, insurance certificates.
Endless paperwork.
It's a fragile web of fragmented paper-based trust systems. And traditional software breaks down here because a customs form in Vietnam looks completely different than one in Brazil.
A human has to interpret the mess.
Right. But an AI agent possesses semantic understanding. It can read a smeared PDF from a foreign port, understand the context, and automatically translate it into the exact compliance code the U.S. port requires in real time.
So an AI-native trade layer that handles all of that negotiation autonomously.
It could eliminate billions of dollars in port delays and administrative friction.
Target number 5 hits close to home for everyone, I think. Government services.
Oh, yes.
We all know the pain of the DMV or the local permitting office. Governments are fundamentally just giant workflow machines.
That's all they are. They process permits, collect taxes, distribute benefits, and verify licensing and identity.
And the friction in government services usually stems from data silos, right?
Exactly. The tax department doesn't talk to the property department, which doesn't talk to the vehicle registry.
You have to carry paper from one building to another?
Right. But if an AI layer could modernize and unify these services, securely routing a citizen's intent through the necessary compliance checks autonomously.
It could become the default infrastructure of modern states.
It really could.
The sixth target is human resources and recruiting. The life cycle of hiring someone is highly repetitive.
Very repetitive. Sourcing candidates, screening resumes against job descriptions, sending emails back and forth to schedule interviews, gathering feedback, drafting offer letters.
It's a massive drain on time.
The author envisions agents acting as a complete employment OS, running these pipelines end to end without a human recruiter ever needing to send a scheduling email.
And finally, the seventh target.
Oh!
Financial advisory and wealth automation. And we aren't talking about a basic fintech app that shows you a pie chart of your spending.
No. Think about the level of service a billionaire receives from a family office.
Right.
A dedicated team managing tax loss harvesting, rebalancing portfolios, finding yield, and optimizing estate planning.
Really high-end proactive stuff.
Exactly. The author proposes a global, agent-driven wealth layer that provides that exact level of highly personalized, proactive financial management for billions of people simultaneously.
So we have these 7 massive work-will-heavy industries. And the author issues a really stark warning to the legacy companies, the incumbents currently running these sectors.
It's a dire warning.
When a new player redesigns these industries from scratch, using AI agents, the legacy companies simply cannot respond.
Their inability to respond is structural. Their entire corporate architecture, their org charts, their management styles, their profit margins, it's all built around managing human bottlenecks.
Right.
Asking a traditional healthcare billing company to compete with an AI agent system is like asking a post office that sorts mail by hand to compete with an email server.
The medium itself has changed.
The moment agents become the default labor layer, these legacy companies instantly transform into bureaucratic dinosaurs.
The text says it's like horses competing against automobiles. But, and let me pause here and look at the reality of these industries.
Sure.
Horses didn't have billions of dollars in lobbying power in Washington, D.C.
That is very true.
Horses didn't hold massive patent portfolios or have deeply entrenched, decades-long relationships with government regulators.
Yeah.
You can't just deploy some brilliant code and expect the American healthcare administration industry to quietly surrender its profits.
They will fight tooth and nail.
Exactly. Isn't the author severely underestimating the political defensibility of these legacy giants?
That friction is real, and the author's strategy actually accounts for it.
Oh, really?
Well, while capturing and reinventing an existing industry is the Layer 2 playbook, the text suggests there is an even bigger ultimate move, one that bypasses the friction of fighting incumbents altogether.
Bypass them entirely.
Instead of fighting the regulatory trench warfare to replace an old industry, you give birth to a completely new industry that didn't exist before.
So instead of trying to sell a better horse to the cavalry, you invent the airplane and leave the battlefield entirely.
That's the perfect analogy. And the historical blueprint the author uses for this ultimate move is Tesla.
Tesla.
Tesla is often misunderstood as simply a car company that swapped out a gas tank for a battery. But to understand multi-layer dominance, you have to look at what Tesla actually built beneath the surface.
They created several entirely new categories simultaneously, didn't they?
Exactly. They didn't just build a car. They created electric mobility as a consumer identity. They forced battery supply chains to become a strategic geopolitical sector.
Right.
They built their own proprietary supercharger network, which created a massive physical network effect. And they pioneered autonomy as a new category of software-driven transport.
The cars were just the visible layer.
They were the shiny object. The shiny object that generated revenue and distracted everyone, while Tesla built an integrated ecosystem underneath.
Wow.
This deeper play is what made all of Tesla's legacy competitors permanently late to the game.
Because they were just trying to build an electric car.
Right. By the time traditional automakers realized they needed to build electric cars to survive, they suddenly realized they also needed gigafactories to make the batteries.
And a massive charging network to fuel them.
And an over-the-air software expertise they completely lacked. They were fighting a multi-layer empire with a single-layer product.
So what does this all mean when we map the Tesla blueprint onto AI?
The author envisions the AI equivalent of birthing a new industry. They call it inventing the agent economy itself.
The agent economy. It's like they aren't trying to build better tools for our economy. They want to build an entirely parallel economy that we just happen to live inside.
That's exactly it. It's a parallel economic structure. The text lists the foundational components: creating the first global marketplace for cognitive labor, establishing the first globally standardized agent governance system, and building the first open intelligence grid.
Think about what a marketplace for cognitive labor actually means. Like, today, if my company wants to run a massive marketing campaign, I hire an agency.
Right, you go find humans.
I negotiate a contract, they assign an account manager, they put creatives on it. It takes weeks.
Very slow.
In an agent economy, I go to a marketplace, I specify the outcome I want, and I essentially rent a swarm of highly specialized pre-trained marketing agents for 3 hours.
They execute the research, the copy, the ad buying, the analytics.
And then they spin down.
It's wild. But creating a parallel economy from scratch requires a massive leap of faith from the market.
All right, how do you convince human beings and traditional businesses to abandon their known workflows and participate in a system with no precedence? I mean, doesn't creating a new industry require a massive leap of faith?
You don't ask for a leap of faith.
What do you do?
You structurally trap the market in an unstoppable, self-reinforcing loop. You make your system inevitable.
Make it inevitable.
And this brings us to the ultimate strategic weapon detailed in the text. The flywheel and the pyramid of power.
The text describes this multi-layer strategy as creating a moat fortress.
No, moat fortress, yeah.
Because if you execute this flywheel, competitors don't just have to beat your underlying AI model. They have to beat your model, plus your developer ecosystem, plus your enterprise integration, plus your distribution channels, plus your regulatory positioning.
It's an impenetrable wall. The author lays out a highly specific 10-step self-reinforcing flywheel to explain exactly how this trap closes.
Okay, let's walk through the mechanics of this chain reaction. Step 1.
Step 1 is the foundation. You build a better stack. A genuinely superior, faster, more reliable intelligence layer.
Which logically triggers step 2. That better stack naturally attracts developers. Developers are pragmatic, they migrate to the tools that reduce their friction.
Exactly. Step 3. Because you have the developers, you get an explosion of skills and applications built on your stack. Your ecosystem becomes rich with utility.
Okay, so step 4. This rich ecosystem of applications drives enterprise adoption. Businesses realize they literally can't afford to ignore the tools being built on your platform.
Step 5. Deep enterprise adoption generates massive recurring revenue. You are now heavily capitalized.
And step 6. You don't just pay that out in dividends. You take that massive revenue and pour it directly back into securing more compute power and funding training runs.
Step 7. That massive compute advantage equals better, smarter foundation models, which widens the gap between you and the open source competitors.
Okay, step 8. Because your models are now significantly smarter, you can start building better vertical solutions. This is where you start capturing those specific industries we talked about, like healthcare billing or legal discovery.
Step 9. Superior vertical solutions lead to total industry dominance. You become the default operating system for that sector.
And step 10, the final lock. Industry dominance gives you regulatory influence. You become so structurally vital to the economy that you gain the power to set the standardization for the whole sector.
Right. As the text explicitly states, at this point you are no longer competing. You are becoming infrastructure. And infrastructure becomes destiny.
Infrastructure becomes destiny. That gives me chills.
It's intense. To ground this massive ambition in reality, the author points to a specific entity. Nous Research.
Oh, yeah.
But they make a vital distinction. The correct way to view Nous Research is not as a standalone AI lab. The author frames them as the technology engine of a much larger concept, what they call a Solara company.
A Solara company. That implies something beyond just a corporation. It implies like a civilizational platform.
Exactly. In this framework, the AI lab is just the R&D wing. The text breaks down the components operating in tandem. Hermes acts as the intelligence engine, the brain. Psyche acts as the compute grid, the physical muscle.
Okay.
And they possess a marketplace which acts as the skills economy, the nervous system connecting the brain and muscle to the real world.
So the trillion-dollar entity isn't the lab. It's the overarching ecosystem that uses Hermes, Psyche, and the marketplace to reshape a sector of civilization.
Right. This culminates in the author's grand synthesis, a 7-level winning formula, or pyramid of power.
Okay, let's ascend this pyramid from the bottom up because it perfectly visualizes the journey we've been discussing.
Level 1 is the models, the raw intelligence. Level 2 is the agents, the autonomous entities that use the intelligence.
Is that it?
Level 3 is the operating system or runtime, the environment where the agents live.
And the profound realization here is that most of the most famous AI companies on Earth stop right here at level 2 or 3.
They do.
They release a model, they build an API, maybe they orchestrate some agents, and they think they've won the game.
But the true empire builders keep climbing. Level 4 is the compute grid, securing the physical resources. Level 5 is the marketplace economy, building the parallel structure for cognitive labor.
And level 6 is industry reinvention, deploying the agent to take over healthcare, legal, or trade.
And the peak, level 7, is becoming a civilizational platform. The trillion-dollar outcome requires conquering all 7 levels.
So if we strip away all the technical jargon, what is this blueprint really telling us? Most AI companies today are just selling productivity boosts. They are selling a better hammer and telling you it'll make your human carpenters swing faster.
A slightly better hammer.
Right. But this philosophy is saying, do not sell a hammer. Build a self-replicating robotic construction crew, use it to build 1 million houses overnight, and then just own the entire global real estate market.
You do not sell software to humans. You sell infrastructure combined with total economic redesign.
But let's take a step back and look at the sheer scale of this.
Sure.
A 7-level pyramid of power where a single entity controls the underlying intelligence, the physical compute, the labor marketplace, the specific industry workflows, and the regulatory standards. Doesn't this sound exactly like the kind of absolute, suffocating monopoly that antitrust regulators were historically designed to destroy?
It sounds exactly like that.
At what point does a civilizational platform stop being a wildly successful company and become an actual threat to the sovereignty of civilization itself?
It is a profound structural critique, and the author's own conclusion implicitly acknowledges the terrifying scale of this ambition.
What do they say?
The text openly states, "A trillion-dollar company does not think in markets, it thinks in civilizations." They are not looking at a market and asking, what software can we sell to these people? They are looking at the foundational systems of society, identifying what is broken, slow, and human-bound, and deciding to rebuild it from the bedrock up using autonomous intelligence.
So the ultimate prize isn't being a wealthy toolmaker. It is being the architect of a new world.
That's the ambition.
Let's bring all of this together for you because we have covered a staggering amount of ground today. We started by dismantling the illusion of layer 1, the seductive idea that simply building the best AI model guarantees victory.
The Intel trap.
Right, the mechanics of why stopping at the infrastructure layer turns you into the new Intel, trapped as a mere supplier while the actual value migrates upward.
We then unpacked the necessity of layer 2, capturing and completely reinventing massive, workflow-heavy industries. We explored the OpenAI trap of being a brain without a body.
And why the Apple ecosystem approach of owning the user experience is vastly superior to simply owning the technical stack.
We took a deep mechanical dive into the 7 vulnerable human agent systems, from education and healthcare billing to global trade and legal discovery.
Industries where the human bottleneck is ripe for total autonomous redesign.
Exactly. And we saw how the ultimate multi-layer strategy uses an unstoppable 10-step flywheel to bypass incumbent resistance entirely.
Creating a new agent economy that operates as a civilizational platform. The core shift you need to internalize from this deep dive is this. The future belongs to companies that don't just sell AI productivity tools to humans, but rather replace human workflow systems entirely.
And that brings us to a final, rather provocative thought to leave you with.
Let's hear it.
Let's return to the author's analogy of legacy companies being like horses competing against automobiles.
Okay.
If an AI civilizational platform successfully replaces the entire operating logic of an industry, redesigning it autonomously from scratch, stripping away all the messy, slow human workflows, what happens to the inherent value of human experience?
That's a heavy question.
Human intuition is messy. Human empathy is incredibly slow and unscalable. If the ultimate prize is being the architect of the new world, we have to ask ourselves, who exactly is drawing up the blueprints?
And in this new, frictionless, agent-driven architecture, are human beings treated as the beneficiaries of this efficiency? Or are we just the legacy infrastructure being paved over to make way for the new roads? Think back to the concrete metaphor we started with. The people who poured the concrete built the cities we live in today. But if the concrete is now pouring itself and designing the city itself, where do we live?
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us on this intense intellectual journey. We hope this deep dive encourages you to look at every new AI announcement, not just as a neat new piece of software, but to ask yourself, what layer of the pyramid are they actually bidding for? Until our next deep dive together, keep questioning the blueprints.